Okay, let's see why we need to access control. Limiting the time of day access, limiting the day of week access. Okay, you may ask a question, why do we need to decide who has access to what? Why? Okay, as an example, let's say if an employee simply performs data entry operations, he or she probably shouldn't be allowed to access to payroll information. Likewise, the employees working on payroll need to the payroll database need they need to have an access to payroll database, but more than likely they do not need an access to information regarding corporate research programs, let's say. Yes, every user has to have some limiting time of the access or limiting access to what. Actually, the access rights are defined by Chief Information Officer, CIO. Probably you have heard about CIO, Chief Executive Officer, but it's Chief Information Officer. They actually often work together to decide how the company should be broken up to information access groups. As you see from the figure 12.2, it's a sample dialog box that from a network operating system, probably it's NetWare, yes. And it's the chief information officer sets the time of day restrictions, up to which time who can have an access to the system. uh, let's say if the primary activity in one part of your business is accessing personal records, and this activity is performed only during working hours by employees in the personal or let's say human resources department, then it might be reasonable to disable access to personal records after working hours, for example from 5:30 p.m. Till 7 a.m. the next morning. That's quite logical. And after controlling access that we have mentioned enough, let's see the password and ID systems. Everybody has an idea about the passwords because when we enter these systems, the first thing is required from us are passwords. Actually, the passwords, you may consider them as a most common form of security, but they are actually the uh, most, let's say, vulnerable technique to protect the data. Why? Because sometimes they can be easy to guess. They can be noun or misplaced or fall into wrong hands in a worse scenario. For example, when you write your password on a paper and it's found by someone else, that's obvious that your data is under the risk. And there are some standard rules that can be helpful for all users to protect the data. For example, you can change your password often, then it will not be so easy to guess. Also, the main principle is your passwords shouldn't be guessed easily. That's why you shouldn't share your password or write them down, and you shouldn't select the names or you shouldn't select the patterns that can be guessed easily, like your favorite pet name or your car brand names or some other choices that can easily be guessed. For example, in banking systems, when you get your credit card, it's written on the envelope that do not even share your passwords, even the bank workers. Can you imagine how serious the topic is? Even you shouldn't share your password with the bank workers. But the passwords are the systems, the techniques that we developed, which has the weakest part, the guessing part. That's why in some developed countries they come up with idea of biometric techniques. They are beside the password, they are using some combinations that altogether they are making the network or personal data more secure, like fingerprints, face prints, even retina or iris scans, voice prints, and ear prints. That's quite interesting. Even UK, United Kingdom, they come up with the idea of the large database of ear prints because the research shows that no two ears are the same. Thus, ear print is useful in helping to identify an individual. That's why beside of fingerprints, they are using ear prints. Sorry, ear prints, yes. And actually there's some systems, even some mobile phones, just when you the lockup screen, it requires both fingerprints or both, let's say, the face prints, or maybe both retina scans and fingerprints to make the data more secure.